This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Sam Jones here in Birmingham. Sam, always good to see you. You've made the little journey down from Derby. Why do I not mean that? But you've made the small journey down from Derby. Obviously, two fighters on the card this weekend on this Birmingham Next Gen show. Before we come on to that, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Very good, mate. I'm a big fan of Birmingham, mate. I've only ever been to. I was trying to work this out the other day. I've only been to one Birmingham show, fight night in Birmingham. So, looking forward to it.
Only ones that wait, was that for one of the major promoters, or was it a smaller promoter that you visited?
It was a Frank Warren show. I can't even remember which one it was, but it was definitely a Frank Warren show.
Lerone wasn't.
It wasn't that one.
I wasn't here for that.
No, I was in Vegas. I remember that one. I was in Vegas that time when Lerone won the British title against Lennox Clark. It wasn't that. It was the one before that. It was literally the one before that. I genuinely can't remember who boxed on it.
No, that's puzzling me as well now, because that's going back to probably 2019 here. Yeah.
I've tried to think. Have I been here more than once to watch? But never. This is only once to Birmingham. So I'm really looking forward to it. One, because it's local, and two, I like Birmingham.
I'm glad somebody does, because I weren't saw a reception of everyone coming here, because for some reason it has a bad reputation. But yeah,
it's a great city, mate. Great people. So it's a sporting city. It's the second city. I like Birmingham.
Second city, it's God's country, as I call it. So here we are, Sam.
Not the home of the mixed grill though, like that one you sent me, mate.
Behave yourself, Sam. Listen, you keep going on about these mixed grills. The one that you have is nothing in comparison to the one that I have.
It certainly is, but that's a conversation for another day. Sure, people don't want to hear about lamb chops and chicken in this interview.
I don't know, they'll probably think they'd rather hear that than us talk about boxing, but here we are. You've obviously got two men on the card on Saturday night. Start off with Muhammad Ali. I've heard very good things about him. So what are you hoping that he shows on this next gen bill?
Just like last time, I think he's not lost the round yet in professional boxing, but I think he kind of forced it a little bit last time because he did really well. This one, he looks completely relaxed. He's done his weight really, really good, and he's a really, really, really good talent. He really is, and he's going to go a long, long way. Just has to relax, take it in. But people remember, he's 18 years old, but he's doing really, really well. Dave's really happy with him. I'm really looking forward to watching boxing. He's a really, really lovely human being as well, which obviously helps when you work with somebody.
Just before we come on to Khaleel as well, how have you found that kind of adjustment back into management life?
Never really left it in that respect, Andy. Like, I'm not like, so have I ever come back into it? Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy being on a side. I'm not gonna like sit there and like lie. Like, when I watch boxing, I like to be with somebody, if that makes sense. And it's like, it's a big buzz. I love it. It's like I'm very blessed and fortunate people want to work with me, and long may it continue. But I think I deliver. I know I do. I don't want to sound too like big-headed, but like I think I deliver for my fighters, and I'll go always the extra mile for them.
I've never asked you this, never had a chance to be fair, but when obviously you left SJAM, coming back into the management side of things now, was there ever a temptation to kind of team back up with your old team and pick up where things had left?
Do you know, no one's asked me that question, but no, not really, mate, not really, because I kind of think Adam's doing his thing with Shane. They're doing their thing, and I kind of think it's like going back to an ex. You don't really, it's not even really like, I don't know, it's a bad comparison, but it's like I built that with Adam. I left off my own accord, and now this is what. As soon as I say, I got Jack Catterall, who I've known for years. I feel this is my niche. This is where I belong, and this is what I'm good at. So. I'm really, really happy to be back, and I'm on my own. I do miss the camaraderie a little bit of like going to like with your mates. Like, that's what Adam was. He's my really good mate, still is good pal of mine. Obviously, we're not as close anymore because we do separate things. Like, we used to speak a lot because we work together. But I do miss that element of it. But I've adjusted, and like I'm honestly, I've never been happier than I've worked in boxing for. 8 years now. I've never been as happy as what I am as I am now, if that makes sense. Did I get that all right? That's what I mean, yes.
Obviously, just with that stable, which are still with SJAM, though, do you have, how close are you still with some of those fighters? And in particular, obviously, Zhang-Joyce being the leading name of SJAM.
So, yeah, Zhang-Joyce is one of my closest friends. It will always be that way. But I've not, like, I'll message Joe because I can't get too. My issue was when I did a video, I was like, what's he doing? Who's he sparring? And having that. So I'm kind of try to emotionally detach myself from the situation, because if I don't, it used to send me a bit nuts. Like, who's he sparring? Like, what's he doing? Is he? Because I know what he's like. I know him inside and out, so I know how he's thinking, how his mood swings and all that kind of stuff. So, but obviously this fight in particular is the biggest fight of his career, because he has to win, in my opinion. I think his career's on the line. I think it's that big, this fight, especially if he has world title aspirations, something he's worked for. So I message Joe as often as I can. I let him see how training's getting on, but I try not to go too deep into it, because that's the job of Adam and Shane. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to like step on toes and do that. I will offer my opinion if someone asks for it. But yeah, that's what I mean. So, in answer to your question, I'm still very close to Joe. Talk to Johnny Fisher probably on a daily basis. Very close to Johnny. Lerone I'll speak to. Florian trains back in Derby now, so I'll see Florian a little bit. But yeah, Sol Dacres I speak to him. I've not speak to Sol. I don't speak to Sol like much on message, but like lovely catch up with him there. I'm when I'm involved in a fight, I'm emotionally invested. Like, I'm an emotional person. I am. That's why I speak and I say sometimes things that's going to get me into trouble. But I'm an emotional person. I'm saying this right. I'm a very real person. I say how I feel. I might contradict myself every now and again, which I don't really intend to do, but it's how I'm feeling in the moment. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, I'm very close to a lot of them, but I'll speak to all of them. But as I say, Johnny Fisher, Joe Joyce, Lerone as well, I speak to a lot. Florian, yeah, I would say I'm close to all of them.
I do just want to ask you about the rematch between Joe and Gilles before we do circle back to Khaleel, as we're talking about him. A lot of people in the industry have asked their thoughts, and a lot of people feel like it will just be a matter of repeat going into it. I know you will back Joe, you're confident he can get a reverse result, but how does he go about changing so much from what went wrong in that first fight?
Legit, Andy, right? I looked at the fight, and when Joe stood on the scales, and I'm not just being a know-it-all, but I've got messages to show this. Oh, look at this. But I'll show you in a minute. When I saw Joe on the scales, I thought, too light, for one. That was alarming to me, because Joe is a big, strong man, and he looked nimble. He looked a bit nimble. So I was thinking, that's concerning in itself. So I wonder why he's so light, because it's another strength and conditioning coach. I know he used Larry Wade before. I'm not criticising Larry Wade in the slightest, because he's a great guy. He works with some top-class athletes. But Joe, you have to kind of know him. He's not a young man, Joe, like in the sense of he's not 26, 27. He's a 30, going on 38 this year. So you have to kind of know his body. So that's kind of, I was thinking, changing S&C coach. This is his third S&C coach in 3 fights. Thinking, not really into that. But if Joe Joyce comes into the fight and for one moves his fucking head, he has to do that. He can't have no respect for what comes back, because Zhang can punch, right? Zhang's a very, very, very good fighter. I even overlooked him. I was thinking, Joe's going to deal with this guy easy. But Joe, from the outside perspective looking in, it would look like Joe had never been in the ring with a southpaw before. But Joe did all the criticism. Shane got a lot of criticism for not doing it. But I know for a fact Joe sparred. Every sparring session Joe had was with a southpaw. It's just probably the level. That was all. I don't know what he was sparring at. But things went on in the camp that I'm sure that only really Shane and Joe will know about, and I'm sure they've rectified it, because Shane's been with Joe long enough now to know what he's like as a person, how he is. Like Joe can be a big moody bastard sometimes. I'm telling you that because I've lived with him, so I know what he's like. But as I say, that's up to Shane to deal with, and from what I'm hearing, Joe's doing really well. And if Joe Joyce if he's 19 stone, he's got top sparring like your Jalalovs or like some big, strong southpaws that he respects the power of, I'm so certain Joe Joyce will get the win over Zhang. I even still think, I know it's controversial to say this, and Joe was getting comprehensively outboxed, he was getting outpunched, outthought, everything. I genuinely believe if that fight would have carried on, Joe would have still won that fight. I genuinely believe that. I think Zhang was gassing, I think the same thing's going to happen. I think Joe will be more cautious, but Joe will take it into the later rounds and Joe will stop Zhang this time. That's what I genuinely believe. I know people might say that, and I might have beer goggles Joe Joyce, but from what I've seen of Joe over the years and years I know him, I know Joe can take Zhang apart. I know he can.
One other final thing I just want to touch on with regards to your former stable. We saw Florian Marku and Chris Kongo get into a bit of an altercation earlier this week. What did you make of that?
Florian being Florian, Andy. Listen, Florian's a volatile character. It's not, believe me, what Florian did there is not for show, because he wouldn't want to give Kongo that kind of not saying Chris is not really well known, but it's like he's given Kongo a bit of a platform there. Florian's just like that. Florian asked him to move. Chris didn't really want to move in. He wanted to move in his own time, and Florian helped him leave. That's what kind of happens. But I get on really well with Chris Kongo. I think he's a very nice fella. Florian's my guy. He's a hilarious person as well, by the way, Florian. Great company to have. So, mate, if that's a fight, I don't believe Florian's going to end up fighting him, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I think Florian wants to get through Dylan Moran, which is a hard, tricky test, and then he wants a massive fight. And I don't think Kongo really fits the bill. No disrespect to Chris, and I do agree with Florian. I think he needs to rectify a McKinson, and I know McKinson is a very, very, like, not being too disrespectful to McKinson, but I don't look forward to his fights. I like Michael, he's a nice fella. But I don't look forward to watching him box. I can only be honest. I would like, God, McKinson's on. It's not really a thrilling watch. But I think Kongo should go and rematch McKinson or Echo Essuman.
Moving away from Florian and obviously with Chris Kongo, talk back to this weekend. Khaleel Majid walked me through his opportunity to become 5-0 as a pro.
No, 11-0.
11-0. Sorry, it was Muhammad Ali who was going 5. 4. Right.
Ali's boxed twice. Yeah, twice. This is his third professional fight. So he can go 3-0. Khaleel go 11-0.
I'm getting myself confused here. So, right, he's trying to go 11-0. Walk me through his opportunity to do so and the statement that you hope he makes.
Yeah, so look, Khalil's been training with Buddy McGirt in Florida, doing really, really well. He's recovering from a little injury, but he's looked really, really good. We've got something planned for Khalil. I won't go into it too much, but he's got a fight lined up after this fight, which is a very, very good for him. But he has to get through this fight, and he has to look really, really good. I'm really confident he does that. I think, honestly, he looks fantastic. It's my first. I've known Khalil a long time, but it's our first fight working together. But I'm really, really excited to watch him box.
I know Buddy won't be here on Saturday night. What is the reason for that?
Well, Buddy with Khalil, we was originally thinking he was going to be on the Anthony Joshua card. It never really happened. Obviously, the Dillian White thing and then the Callum Smith thing fell out. So I think Buddy's in. Yeah, so it is what it is. But the next fight, Buddy will be in Khalil's corner.
Who's going to work with him for this corner then, for this fight?
Paulinho, he's old. He's a coach who he trains with while he's in this country.
Moving forwards, Jack Catterall, the Helenius fight on the horizon. I'm sure you've seen some of the critics for that. Yeah, there's always criticism in boxing, Sam. You should know that better than anybody. Obviously, Jack will go into that as a big favourite now. Helenius, a few defeats back to back. Not the fight he once was in his heyday. He was an unbelievable fighter. Don't get me wrong, but now it's more of a faded version. What does Jack gain from this fight?
One thing I'll say about Linares, right? And I'm not just saying this before people say, oh, he's just saying it. Linares has lost a couple of fights on the spin before in his career. He's been wrote off many times. He's one of the, he's a 4 or 3 weight world champion. He's one of the best. I've been in the gym with Linares. I spent so much time with him. I've lived with him in a household. He's one of the best fighters and the best professionals I've ever been around. And if you don't take him seriously and people overlook him, Linares will beat you. Jack Catterall is preparing for the best version of Linares. Jack's career has been plagued with inactivity, and it's a fact. Everyone knows this about him. It's terrible, really, how many times, fewer times he's boxed. Like, he's not boxed. Before the Foley fight, he had not boxed for over a year. So it's about picking up momentum, Andy, right? And one thing I will say is, Foley, and then he's boxing Linares in October. If we get through Linares, which is still a big fight, by the way, a lot of people are interested in the fight. You see a lot of people abroad, they're all messaging. You see the post, the comments it gets. Yeah, there's a few bit of criticism, but it is what it is. If Jack gets through that fight, there's a massive fight for him coming.
That massive fight on the horizon, what will it be? Because there's obviously a lot of talk about it being Regis Prograis. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about it being Regis Prograis. Instead, we're still waiting for something official, but it seems like Haney Prograis will go ahead. So where do things currently stand with Jack trying to get that big fight?
Just trust me. There's a big fight for him coming.
Is there something kind of secured or?
We're in talks now, but the thing is, what I don't want to do, and I've learned this about boxing myself, you can't really. It's my job to look at what's next for Jack, but for Jack has to focus purely on Linares. That's what I'll say. But I'll promise you, massive fight for Jack.
I know Eddie's mentioned the Josh Taylor rematch. He's mentioned potentially up at 147. Where did?
147. It means nothing for Jack. Like if that fight takes place, it'll be a catchweight, I would imagine. Well, not imagine, it will be.
Obviously, a lot of people felt that Jack had done enough to be victorious in the first fight.
99.99%. I think only Josh
Listen.
thought he won that fight. And the two couple of the judges.
Well, on that note, as we said, like, a lot of people thought that Jack had done enough to have his hand raised in the first fight. Going into the second fight, the most recent version of Josh we saw was against Teofimo Lopez. What do you think would happen in a second fight?
I think Jack would stop Josh Taylor in the rematch. I'm sure Josh will disagree. He let me know what he thought of me on Twitter not long ago. But listen, it is what it is. I respect Josh. I respect what he's done in boxing. He's an former undisputed champion, one of the best fighters to ever come off these shores. Good luck to him. But Jack Catterall will stop him if they get in the ring with each other again.
Where is that fight in terms of your plans for Jack Catterall?
Listen, Jack's aim is to become a world champion, but whenever people ask me, a fan or whatever, is he going to make the Jack Catterall-Taylor fight? And I can imagine, I can't say it, but when Josh Taylor walks down his street where he lives, I'm sure he gets, you need to fight Jack Catterall again. And the same thing with Jack when he's walking around in Chorley, it's Jack, when are you going to rematch Josh Taylor? When are you going to beat Josh Taylor? So that's what happens. So we're just about, Jack wants to be involved in massive fights and he wants to give the fans what they want.
Sam, away from Jack, just get your thoughts on a couple of topics. This past weekend, Anthony Joshua returned in a fight which was not the one we was obviously expecting. Obviously, Dillian had his positive test return. Instead, we got Joshua Helenius. Critics of that 7th round stoppage victory. Was you impressed? Was you not impressed? What did you make of what we saw from AJ?
Well, listen, I did an interview about this, and when I was watching the fight, Andy, I've got to be honest with you, I was tired. I thought the fight came on far too late, so I was literally watching it like, you know, like the Mr. Bean gif when he's like this, keeping his eyelids open. I'm like watching it, and then I've watched the fight again, because the boring human that I am, and I thought Joshua's legs was good. I thought his stance was good. I thought his jab was good. I thought he could have ended the fight a bit earlier than what he did, but it was a good performance. It was a very good performance. You can't really criticise it. He knocked the guy out, and that's what you want to see. But I just think it could have come a little bit earlier. That was my only criticism of it. And hopefully, the next fight we're going to see Anthony Joshua in is against Deontay Wilder, which is what everyone wants to see.
Some people still obviously making that kind of suggestion he was a little gun shy. Did you see that in his performance?
No, I just think like when Vladimir Klitschko got clipped a couple of times by Brewster and Corey Sanders, Manny Stewart kind of changed his style a little bit, and that's what I believe is happening with AJ now. He's transitioning into a more cautious heavyweight. And that's I know, listen, as fans, we want to see, I was sat there like a big porky armchair fan going, come on, Joshua, take Helenius out. But when you break it down, you think it was a good performance from AJ. He didn't take a couple of shots here and there, but he was cautious. He peppered him with a jab, and he took him out with a fantastic shot. So let's just lay off AJ a little bit. Let's lay off AJ a little bit. He's I know he made that joke about carrying boxing, but in my opinion, he has carried heavyweight boxing for a long, long time. So let's give him a bit of respect, and let's let him fight Deontay Wilder next, which is a massive fight, which we'll all watch through our fingers because someone's getting knocked out, aren't they?
I think everybody needs to be wary of watching that one and not missing a thing with it. But just away from that final topic to touch on, obviously, big topic at the moment in the sport is PEDs. Most recently this week we saw the news of Alycia Baumgardner failing a drugs-free sport test at Not Varda. Just wanted to get your thoughts on everything to do with her.
Do you know what it is? I'm a big fan of Alycia Baumgardner, so I genuinely hope she has something written down to say, this is what's caused it, that's why it's there, this is the reason how it got into my system, and we can kind of move on. But if not, she needs banning. She needs banning. If you knowingly take performance-enhancing drugs, you should be banned.
What did you make of Jessica McCaskill's most recent comment?
Thick comments. Like listen, I speak sometimes before thinking, but saying something like that, you're asking for a lawsuit, aren't you? It's stupid. But I've seen she's just apologised on there, which I'm sure she's got the legal letter that a matchroom has sent her, and said, right, I better make a swift apology.
And then just final thing, we saw Conor Benn's decision's been appealed by UKAD and British Boxing Board of Control. Was you surprised at all by that?
I don't know, not really, mate. But the thing is with Conor Benn, right, no matter what you think, what I think, you think, he's done everything asked of him. He's gone through, well, I know people say, we want to see this document, but he has gone through every process and been I don't know what the word is, acquitted twice. So I expect him to get off of it for a third time and they get on with his career. I'm kind of sick to death. Like Conor Benn's been out of the ring now, which is Canelo got banned for 6 months, didn't he? For was it not Nangelo? I don't know what he got. Clenbuterol, he got banned for 6 months. Conor Benn's been out of the ring for 12 months. So that's a ban in itself. He's not brought in any money for it. So I kind of just, I know the people are saying, oh, Brook, he's too. I would like to see Conor Benn against Kell Brook. I would like to see that fight. I think it's a very, very interesting fight. Yeah, so that's that. But whatever's going to happen is going to happen, Andy. When it comes to this, like, I've realised when you speak about, like, I've spoke impulsively about test fails and stuff, but let's just see what the facts are first, and then we'll give our judgment.
Right, Sam, it's a pleasure as always to catch up with you. I'm probably taking a bit more of your time than what you expected. Now you can go and enjoy the streets of Birmingham and get yourself a nice mixed grill for a change, so thank you.